you can probably pull up your Twitch feed. It's very basic overlay. I wanted to do something a lot better, but with the amount of time I've had, it's not worked out as much as I would have liked it.
I like the like metallic grey.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, no. So that's what the stream's going to be looking like. I've got shit. Why have I put Showdown up? I've put OBS up to pull through images to the stream as we talk. You've got eyes on the stream, haven't you?
I've got eyes on the stream.
Cool. I'm seeing if I can sort of get it in the background over here as well. It doesn't look like I can, which is rather unfortunate.
I'm loving cast form in the corner.
Podcast form just doing his thing.
Is that going to be? Are we going to make merch? Is that a mascot now? Are we going to have plushy podcast form?
Baby steps. Baby steps.
All right.
You know.
I'm holding you to it. That's my Christmas present this year.
What? Podcast form merch. Podcast form. Can you imagine how complicated that would be to make a plushy podcast form?
No.
And I don't want to get sued by the Pokemon company.
Just if you do it on Etsy, it's all fair use, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Fair use according to you. So, without further ado, let's start the podcast, shall we?
Yeah, on the topic of plagiarism, let's start the podcast.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the first episode of the PokeRAMBLE podcast. I'm your host, Kamal, and I'm joined by the frontier brain himself, Amit. Amit, go ahead and say hi.
I didn't know I was going to get a title. That's cool.
That is your title.
And I'm sorry that I've interrupted your flow already, but
go for it. Go for it.
I'm surprised. So I'm Amit. I've been playing Pokemon for probably 18 or 20 years now. Just by coincidence, my t-shirt matches my socks. It's important to state they both have Pokeballs on them. Doesn't normally match, but I'm making a real effort for the podcast.
That's the sign of a psychopath, if for anyone there.
I'm just keen. I'm just, it's good to be here with you.
Oh, thank you very much. It's good to be here with you as well. And just to introduce myself, I'm Kamal. I've been a Pokemon fan as far as I can remember. First game was Red. Favorite game is Silver. Favorite spin-off, I think I shared this with you, Conquest. Favorite Pokemon, Totodile. Favorite evolution, Glaceon. I love everything about Pokemon, its world, characters, obviously the Pokemon itself, battling, raising Pokemon, and yeah, I think you like all that stuff, don't you, Amit?
Yeah. I'm not sure I would have picked the same favourite as you.
Okay,
that's probably something for another podcast.
Yeah, you don't want to reveal what your favourite is? Is this like a top 10 or something?
Oh, we should do that. I'm not gonna. I get, obviously when you tell someone you like Pokemon, one of the questions they ask you off the bat is, oh, so who's your favourite then? And I'm like, I'm not going to answer that question.
You're very indecisive then, are you? Or
there's just too many options.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Well, not in Galar anyway.
There's too many Pokemon that have had a significant impact on my life.
Oh, bloody hell, yeah.
I mean that, like, I'm not understating that, and I can't pick between them.
Yeah. Well, there you are. There's the introductions done in that case. Just a little bit about this podcast. This podcast is going to be, that's me touching wood, a weekly podcast every Sunday, talking about all things Pokemon. With Pokemon news, it tends to be either slow or like just a shit ton comes at you at one time. So some episodes may be longer like this one will be, or others may be shorter. So some episodes we might be talking about rankings, like Amit was just going off there, and others like today's will be news centric. The show itself will be available to be consumed live on Twitch or on demand on YouTube. It'll be on my personal channel for the time being, but I'm looking into perhaps putting it on a separate channel. But my personal channel is Kamail786, and we're working on Spotify, so watch out for that. If you have any feedback or questions, you can send that to PokeRamblePod@gmail.com, and Amit will probably have a look through the box for next week's show. But yeah, without further ado, should we start looking at the topic of the show?
Let's do it.
The topic of the show, obviously, as you can tell by the overlay, is Nintendo Direct. Well, the Pokemon Direct. I've got that wrong straight away. Fuck. I spent 2 whole days on this and I've already got it wrong.
This is amateur hour.
Yeah, it's amateur.
What have you invited me to? I don't want no amateur podcast.
But yeah, it's the Pokemon Direct, and I guess where we sort of start off from was the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon news. So the Pokemon Direct was 20 minutes long. This was on Thursday, and it began with an introduction from Ishihara, the CEO and president of the Pokemon Company. And he was saying that he wanted to focus on two topics, the first being Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which we'll focus on first. So the trailer had started, and it was like a cutscene from 2006, Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team. And you could see someone saying, hello, hello, wake up, hello. And legitimately, I thought it was like Skyrim, where you're going to wake up and you're going to see that guy in the car and all that kind of stuff. But no, it wasn't that. It was Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team. And they fast forwarded the date from 2006 to 2020, showing Pichu getting up with updated graphics. They then show the logo and reveal that they're remaking the games under the title of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX. So the trailer continues, shows off gameplay, which we'll get into. But Amit, what was your initial reaction to the announcement? Was it disappointment? Was it excitement? What's your experience with the series itself?
So I'm a big fan of Mystery Dungeon. I think it's a great spin-off series. I think it gives a very different angle to see the Pokemon universe, and I'm a big fan for anything that gives you a perspective that isn't that of just what the kind of mainstream series gives you.
Mm-hmm.
Mystery Dungeon was probably one of the earliest spin-offs that I played.
Yeah.
Aside from the sort of N64 era of Pokemon Stadium and all that stuff. So I think for me it was a really nice sort of breath of fresh air and a different mechanic to how the game works. And for me, I've got good memories. It wasn't the reveal I was expecting.
Yeah,
I'm sure lots of people who were watching it were surprised. I was watching the sort of million miles an hour comments on YouTube fly by on the live stream.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people were very, very surprised by Mystery Dungeon being the kind of title coming this year as a spin-off. It's certainly not the one I think most people would have picked if they had to guess. But it's a welcome return. I'm a big fan of the Mystery Dungeon series, and and I'm sure we'll come on to it. I've had a chance to play the trailer, and we can talk a bit more about that in a minute. But it's exciting to see a spin-off series that's clearly very popular with the community come back and come back in a way that's going to be both nostalgic for those who played it before and obviously very different for those who've never played a Mystery Dungeon game before.
So actually, as you say that, I have no experience with the franchise other than Super Mystery Dungeon on the 3DS, which I just couldn't get to click for me at the time. But I was actually listening to the soundtrack from Blue Rescue Team a couple of weeks ago, and I was tempted to actually go back and play it. But now that we're getting a remake, I'm quite relieved that I don't have to go back and play that. But I just wanted to touch on, before we go into the demos and whatnot, what's going to be different between the old Mystery Dungeon game and this Mystery Dungeon game then?
So they've been quite light on detail so far. Just kind of odd bits from the trailer that you can kind of pick out. You saw a Charizard Mega Evolve that obviously wasn't in the original game.
That was freaking cool. That was so
didn't
cool.
Exist.
Yeah.
Mega Evolution has been in previous Mystery Dungeon titles.
Yeah, Super Mystery Dungeon definitely had Mega Evolution. I think that was on the cover.
This being a kind of remake of the original. And again, I'll talk about kind of how faithful the demo was to the original game in a bit, but that's definitely one of the mechanics that was kind of brand new and will be kind of different to the originals. In terms of story at this stage, very little detail, very little that you can kind of tell, but certainly some of the main things there. Team I'm going to forget the name of it now. Alakazam's team with Tyranitar and Charizard making a return appearance, and the demo.
Oh, so they showed that on the trailer. I put a screenshot up there, but they showed that in the trailer as well. I didn't know they were a team, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so they play a big part in the original game that this remake is based on.
And so what from what I can see then is that it's going up to Generation 3. We're not going to get anything past Generation 3 then. So is it faithful to the old game then in that case?
So far, based on everything the demo has shown me, yes, I think it's going to be faithful to Generations 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
We may get surprised. There may be more in there. There may be select appearances from certain Pokemon.
Yeah.
Don't know yet. But certainly, if you look at the starter select screen, which was in the trailer, the Pokemon that you can pick from for both your starter and for your partner are all from Generations 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I was just blank there, but no. During the trailer, we saw Charizard eat an empowerment seed. Now, is that a new item that allows it to Mega Evolve, or?
Yeah, so there was a different item that allowed you to Mega Evolve in Super Mystery Dungeon on the 3DS, which I think is the only Mystery Dungeon title you can Mega Evolve in.
Yeah.
So it's a different item, giving the same effect of Mega Evolution. Obviously, we're very light on the details at the moment, so more on that as it comes. But it looks quite a straightforward mechanic where you eat a seed, and seeds play a very important part in the game. They act as sort of like your kind of key items, like revives and escape ropes and things like that. Seeds perform that function.
That makes sense.
So seeds and orbs are kind of the two. Seeds, orbs, and berries are really like the main kinds of items. Berries doing kind of what they do in the main games. Seeds doing things like revive, escaping, and then orbs doing something a bit more dynamic, like changing the weather, speeding you up, also letting you escape, that kind of thing.
Oh, cool. So when they showed the trailer, at the end of it, they said that there's going to be a demo that you can play now, and that this demo would carry over to the full game. I was just wondering, you've been through the demo now, haven't you? What were your impressions, from an all-time fan, seeing it from Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team to this remake? What do you think of all of it?
So your challenge to me before this podcast, because I obviously we're going to
homework,
was do some homework and go play the trailer. I didn't go play the demo. Instead gave the controller to Sophie, my partner, and said, "You play the demo."
Oh damn! Okay.
And so I watched her play the first sort of hour of the game. So Sophie, my partner, never played Mystery Dungeon before. She's played a few Pokemon games, certainly, back in the day. She watched me play Pokemon Sword, kind of over my shoulder on the couch, and she's into Pokemon, but Mystery Dungeon was something brand new to her. And I said, "Look, I won't tell you anything. I'm not going to give you any background. Just take the controller and see what you think." And so for me, I kind of got this dual experience of getting to see kind of her reaction as a brand newcomer to the franchise of Mystery Dungeon, but also then kind of my lens of having played the original and kind of comparing the two.
Oh. And so did you like the graphics of it and the gameplay of it, or?
Yeah, so I mean, let's break it down. So the art style, I think, is really, really I think it's really clever. It's not trying to be incredibly high res. It's not trying to be anything that's super sophisticated. It's not going to blow Breath of the Wild and games like that out of the way. But it's very, very, I guess, it's very, very Mystery Dungeon. It's very authentic to the franchise. So it is a bit more cartoonish. It's a bit more sort of this hybrid, like 2D, 3D, which is really nice. And as you play for those of you who get the chance to play the demo, or if you pick up the full game, you'll see it's a very unique art style, something that's not in any of the other Pokemon titles, both spin-offs and main series. It's very unique to the Mystery Dungeon series, but they've toned it up to 10 for the new game. You can tell that it's taking advantage of some of the advanced capabilities of the Switch, in just how it's kind of building these environments that are much more kind of deep than what you would have seen on the original, which actually came out on the Game Boy Advanced as well as the DS.
I didn't obviously play a lot of the old games. I only played one, and even that I didn't play too much of it. But when I first saw the graphics, I wasn't that impressed. But after playing it, I sort of started vibing with it. It's like more akin to like a storybook, like from Kingdom Hearts, the 100 Acre Woods bit. Like it kind of looks like that to me. And I think going through the game and doing a few of the little rescue dungeon things, it sort of made more sense of how it looks, if that makes sense. But I would have liked to look like Nino Kuni or something like that. But now I see the art style. I think I agree with the direction they went in with it. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's designed to be a bit more of a chibi experience. I mean, and this isn't a spoiler for anyone.
Yeah, if you do spoil, I'll kill you.
It's the first 5 seconds of the game. Yeah. But the premise is you're playing as a Pokemon, and your world, your journey is in the eyes of you as a Pokemon. Yeah. And so it kind of feels a bit more fitting to have this world, this environment that is a bit more kind of cutesy and a little bit different.
Yeah.
And certainly for those of us who've played multiple Mystery Dungeon titles, it feels like that kind of style. You kind of get a sense when the game starts that you're really in a world that isn't a main series game, but quite kind of unique to the Mystery Dungeon series, and that's nice. That's nice.
So I think maybe the problem I had when I was first trying to get into it was I was treating it like it's this grand mainline core game, but it isn't. It's supposed to give you a different sort of experience. And I think where it clicked for me playing that demo was I was going through the demo, I was like, okay, this is whatever. But where it clicked for me is when I met a Diglett. Now this Diglett, I don't know, he just made me laugh a lot because he was just basically tunnel over here, tunnel over there, popping up everywhere, tunnels everywhere, and he's like, woohoo, digging, so much fun. And then he's like, where am I? What's going on? And I was like, oh, okay, this game is about the Pokemon, the characters. It's about the characters, getting to know the characters and knowing their story rather than this whole big game where you're discovering new things. That's what I sort of took from it. So I'm quite excited to play it when it comes out.
And this is one of my favourite things that a spin-off title can do, is it gives this kind of level of depth and character to Pokemon, particularly some that are more on the fringes.
Yeah.
Pokemon like Pelipper, like Diglett play a role in the series. And it's really nice to see kind of Pokemon that are normally a bit more sidelined get some real kind of development to their personalities.
Yeah.
Some real kind of stories.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, personality. That Diglett's personality, I fell in love with that Diglett. I just love that Diglett. He's just a great person, Pokemon. So I'm really looking forward to playing it. But now here's the problem, right? The release date is March 6th, 2020. My initial reaction to that was, F off Pokemon, how can you do this? Because for those who don't know, 2020 is packed with games and March alone is a killer month, right? I'll break it down for you. The games in March, you've got Final Fantasy VII Remake, you've got Langrisser 1 and 2, you've got Ori Will of the Wisps, you've got My Hero 1's Justice 2, you've got Neo 2, you've got Fairy Tail coming out, you've got Animal Crossing, you've got Doom 64, Doom Eternal, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. Okay, I'm the only person that is actually going to care about that game in particular. And then Persona 5 Royal, and then Half-Life Alyx is supposed to come out at that time. What were they thinking? March 6th, 2020. And as well, I didn't think it would be coming out so soon. So what was your reaction to that whole release date?
To be honest, the release date didn't really like make me think of anything. And obviously, hearing you read that list, I go, "Oh, there's a lot of games coming out." But
yeah.
At the end of the day, Pokemon has always lived in a bit of a world of its own. Its fan base is a very loyal one, and I think people who are excited to play Mystery Dungeon, either because they've played it before and they want to kind of re-experience the joy of it, or because they're brand new to it, they've played the demo or they saw the Pokemon Direct and they're excited about it. I don't think the list of games is going to stop them. There's nothing on that list that makes me think there's a 300-hour game that someone's going to sink their time into who's a kind of real Pokemon fan. Maybe Final Fantasy's on that list, but kind of outside of that, I can't see the list being too kind of challenging for someone who's a really big Pokemon fan. And I do think that spin-off titles, and you just look at their sales figures, are much more for those who are kind of fans of the Pokemon franchise more than people looking for just a kind of true Pokemon experience.
So I'm gonna get this game, but I'm not gonna get it on release because simply that month I'm gonna be playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake. Animal Crossing is a game where you can sync in 5 minutes, come in and come out every day, so that's fine. And then obviously Persona 5 Royal, I'm a big Persona fan, so those games alone are gonna take 200 hours. So I'll probably play the game, but it's not gonna be straight away. But before I ask you whether or not you're gonna be getting the game, the other thing I wanted to point out was the price point of the game itself. So the price point, from what I could see on Amazon, is £47. Now I thought that was a bit steep because when you look at games like Crash Remastered, Spyro Remastered or Remake, and Ratchet Clank Remake, those games were £27, £29, and £28. What are your thoughts on the price point?
I think the easy answer to it, and it's a bit of a cop-out, is to say we don't at this point know the full extent of the game. And if it is the original game that came out 20 years ago and nothing more, then that feels steep. But if it's the game that was there a long time ago, but a whole lot more depth, more story, post-game, all of those kinds of things that actually turn it from a kind of, I think for me it was sort of 15-20 hour experience to something that's sort of more like 30-35.
Yeah.
You can't really argue with that. And again, as I said, this is the kind of game that probably isn't going to pull in huge numbers of new fans to the series. It's really for those who are kind of passionate about the Pokemon series. And don't get me wrong, there'll be people who are fans of the Mystery Dungeon series in its own right.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's not going to be the game that makes people go, I really want to play Pokemon, if they don't already kind of have some interest or some kind of joy for the game.
No, that's a very fair point. Yeah, I agree.
And I think once you're into that kind of territory, the price point tends to be one of those things that you can manipulate a bit. And I'm not saying that's fair to the consumer, but at the end of the day, people who want to play the game will probably pay 47 quid to play the game because at the end of the day, it's a Pokemon game, and why wouldn't you, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Especially when there's no alternative.
So I take it that you were going to be getting it day on date. Is that correct?
It's really interesting. When I first heard about the release on Pokemon Direct, I was like, oh, maybe I will play this again. But two things put me off. First is the price point. At this point, not knowing that this game has got anything really more to it, and look, mechanics like Mega Evolution aside, anything more to it than the originals, and I played the originals quite a lot. I played both the GBA and the DS version, so I essentially played this game twice.
Yeah.
And for me, if the game's not going to give me a huge amount more than that experience, then I'm probably good.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing for me, and this is probably a surprising one, is having played the demo was such a kind of perfect recreation of the original.
Yeah.
It kind of reinforced that idea that this isn't going to give me a kind of a whole new experience. And if it's not going to do that, there are other games probably that I'm going to want to add to my roster and play this year than Mystery Dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, there'll be people who haven't played this game who should pick it up because it will be lots of fun. Mm-hmm. But I think if you played the original, and as far as we've heard so far, there's not going to be a huge amount new to the game. Maybe this isn't quite the title for you.
Okay, so
probably true of most remakes as well.
If you're going to be playing the and buying the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game day on date, please email us at PokeRAMBLEPod@gmail.com, and we'll look at that next week. But that's enough for the Mystery Dungeon. It's not a mystery anymore. Ishihara passes it to Omori, the director, and Masuda, the producer, in the stream to reveal that Pokemon is getting an expansion pass. They talked about sometimes releasing third games set in the same region, like Platinum, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon, and the expansion pass changes that with you being able to experience new adventures using the same data that you already have. So without going into the nitty-gritty details of what was revealed, this is before all that, what was your initial reaction to them saying, oh, forget the third game now, we're going the expansion say the word for me.
Expansion pass.
Yeah, thank you very much. Go for it.
So look, this is probably the first time in 15 years that Game Freak and the Pokemon Company have sat up and gone, what's every other game around us doing? And how come they're not releasing basically the exact same game with 15 minutes different post game?
Yeah.
2 years after we released the original. Mm-hmm. And do you know what? For people who've been playing Pokemon for 10, 15 years, who played Emerald, Platinum, Black 2, White 2, so there's kind of sequels to the original of that generation. This has got to be great news for you, because it means you're not going to be going through and playing not the same game again.
90% of the same game, essentially.
But yeah, it's the same map, it's the same characters, it's slightly different storylines. Don't get me wrong, but you're walking through the same 8 gyms.
Yeah. Well, and there were differences with some of those games having different gym leaders. Black and White 2, you had 2 different protagonists with you. Chern became a teacher at that point, didn't he? And Bianca was a researcher.
And don't get me wrong, the whole concept of Black and White 2 taking place a little bit of time after the original Black and White, there being this kind of beginning arc to that journey that was, genuinely very different and all new to the original Black and White, was great. But you got, and for those of you who don't know the map of kind of Generation 5, it kind of starts with a bit of a tail and then goes into a big circle. And once you get back into that circle that you did in the first game, every kind of town, every character, every gym starts to feel a bit similar again. And you kind of go, I remember doing this before. And yes, they've got different Pokemon. And yes, their alliances are slightly different. And yes, this guy's now got grey hair when he had brown hair before. But actually, when you kind of detract from that a bit and you think, well, kind of, was this really worth me spending another kind of 50 quid for what is turning out to be quite a similar game to the one before? Probably not. Probably not. And the expansion pass is for me a real breath of fresh air, because it's going to mean that we get something that is genuinely new, something that is genuinely fresh, and something that's going to build on the world that we have already, but not make me go through the labor of starting again and doing kind of that journey again, and even if it's bits of the journey again, I'm not having to go and replay old content to get to see the new stuff. I'm just going to get to go straight into it, and that's right. That's what other games have been doing for a long time, and it's great to see a Pokemon company and Game Freak sitting up and paying attention to that.
Okay. Yeah. No. I like you. I like it a lot because honestly, if I could have just done the Rainbow Rocket stuff in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but have that in Sun and Moon, I would have been a lot more happier because I felt like playing through Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon felt like a slog to me. Now, don't get me wrong. There were cool moments like we've been talking about. The Ultra Necrozma fight, that was crazy. That theme tune, and then just being surprised at how much coverage that thing had, where it wiped out my team several times before I learned how to beat it. It was a really cool moment, but I'd just rather have that add on to the existing game rather than have a different game altogether, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the ratio of kind of new and exciting content to stuff you've done before.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the expansion pass is 100% of it is going to be new and fresh and exciting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that thing of you've gone through the game with these Pokemon that you have, and you've got all your badges and you're well respected in the world now. At least in Sword and Shield, you are. You don't have to restart that whole thing again and just have to slog your way through to the new content. You can just get up, get a train, and go to the new place and discover a whole new world. So yeah, no, that's pretty cool. So,
yeah, now, kind of before we go into details again, don't get me wrong, there will be people who say this content should have been released on launch. I know that people feel like the story for Sword and Shield was probably shorter than it could have been.
I don't think they're wrong on that either, to be honest with you.
No, and I think that's probably fair, and maybe the way that or the amount of content that you get at launch or got at launch was a little underwhelming for those people who kind of really been with the franchise for a long time. It did feel like the game was shorter than any one previously.
Mm-hmm.
You
could complete it in 10 hours, and I know that because I've done it with my Shield copy. So
yeah. I can believe that. Yeah. But don't get me wrong. They've done things in Shield that no game has done before, and that takes time to develop and all that stuff. But yeah. I think when you're dealing with a game that is primarily a single player experience, when you're not doing things that are cooperative and there's not really an end game story to kind of keep you going for a long time, unless you get into the competitive scene, then Sword and Shield for some people I'm sure will have failed to deliver up to that standard. But hopefully the expansion pass will give people more content to play with, and give certainly people who maybe haven't picked up Sword and Shield yet a more kind of fuller and rounded experience.
So we'll go back to what happened in the trailers then. So they say that they have more stuff to show us, and their trailer plays, and their first words are "Our adventure continues," which got me a bit hyped. They have various bits of concept art around the place, and it zooms into one bit where it shows a Galarian Slowpoke, teases his evolution, which we'll get into a little bit later in the show, a logo which appears on a dojo, and a new character. You see your characters in a new outfit, a revelation of more customizable options for your character, Pokemon flash up on the screen that were emitted from the Galar region, hinting that they will be back, and our good friends, not Bulbasaur, Venusaur and Blastoise get shown with Gigantamax forms. Hooray! With the current starters again having Gigantamax forms now in the Isle of Armor, which they show up to be the first DLC. Another trailer follows it, similar to the first, where you're seeing a building amongst these snowy peaks and mountains, and you see your trainer decked out in what looks like very warm explorer gear. Regirock, Registeel and Regice are shown along with new buildings for them, along with a yellow and red building with the trademark Regi dots. This is where they reveal an electric looking Regi and a red Regi. Again, we'll go back to that later on. They show Regirock again. They give us another look at Slowpoke's evolution, but his head's scribbled out, so what's there we don't know yet. There's more things to customize your character, like Team Flare, glasses, and gets this little eye patch thing. Reveal of a Galarian Articuno, Zapdos and Moltres. At least we think they're Galarian. And we get the name of the DLC, the Crown Tundra. legendaries for both games are shown in this trailer, and then it cuts back to Omori and Masuda, who reveal that there's a June 2020 release date for the Isle of Armor and a fall 2020, so probably November, release date for the Crown Tundra. And when you buy the expansion pass, it'll give you both bits of content for your game. So without going into a breakdown of each and every little thing, what was your initial reaction to seeing all that content on the screen during the Pokemon Direct?
Oh, I mean, obviously I was excited. You can't not be. It's more Pokemon. It's more story. It's a whole kind of new. As they put, it's an
you can sing the song if you want to.
I'm not going to sing the song, but it's an adventure continuing, and that's great. It's nice to know that there's more coming, and coming, relatively soon. Not having to wait another year and a half for another bit of Pokemon story. Is nice, and I'm looking forward to kind of getting
it keeps you going, doesn't it? It's only been 2 months, but knowing that there's a bit more coming for this game in a shorter period than it would be for a brand new game, it's a good feeling. Feels good, man. .jpg. A little reference to people who watched our previous streams. But yeah, Hiroyuki Tani's shown. I think this is the first time we've seen him, but he's the director for the expansion passes, and the first thing he shows us is the Isle of Armor, and he tells us that the Isle of Armor is going to be focusing on growth. So I took that as growth for the character, let's say, and the whole thing about the Isle of Armor is that we'll be taking a apprenticeship under our mentor, whose name is Mustard. I'll bring up his picture now. Actually, I should go back one picture of our characters on screen just to show you what they look like in their new sort of fighting gear. They look pretty cool. But let's go back one. So we're introduced to Mustard, and he's revealed to be the mentor to Leon, the current champion in Sword and Shield, and is also revealed to be the former champion as well. So before Leon, he's a former champion himself. What a great reveal, huh?
It was, yeah, absolutely.
And anything more on what you think about Mustard?
You don't want to meet him in the living room with a lead pipe.
Okay.
That's a Cluedo joke.
Oh, okay. Moving on then. Actually,
no, I think it's cool. I think it's exciting that, again, they're trying to build the world up and lore, and it's nice to see that they thought about backstories for some of the characters, and I know that people feel two different ways about Leon, but it's nice that he's going to get some more story to him. And
yeah, I think we might see appearances from him in this Isle, to be fair.
Well, he's got to do something now that he's no longer the champion.
Well, is he not the champion?
Are we? Is that a spoiler? Or am I,
well, I guess every Pokemon game you're beating the champion, I guess. So.
I was going to say,
yeah.
I feel like at this point that's not a spoiler, and I feel like, apologies if I have spoiled anything there, but anyone who's listening to this who hasn't played Sword and Shield to completion and has never played another Pokemon game before, you're probably not following most of what we're saying anyway. So I'm assuming that the audience here is, at the very least, understanding of the fact that your job in these games is to dethrone the champion.
Yeah, we'll avoid saying too much.
Ideally make them cry, but at least dethrone.
Yeah, we'll avoid saying too much about other stuff, but yeah, for the time being, you're now the champion, your character, and so we're hoping to see Leon come about back from the battle tower. But when I first saw Mustard, there was one song playing, right, and I've put it in the background of the stream, and there's one character it just reminded me of. This is Hunter x Hunter. You're seeing Mustard, who's basically Netero from the Hunters Association. That's the person that's training you. How freaking cool is that, man? I'm so hyped. Let's go. Oh shit. But no.
Is he wearing platforms on his shoes?
Yes, he is wearing platforms on his shoes.
Right.
We'll move on from that then in that case. So we get introduced to Clara and Avery. Now these two people will be with you training under the stewardship of Mustard. And they're both training really hard to have their own gym and their own stadium. So that's really cool. More characters to expand the lore, like you said. And I thought they looked pretty cool. But what was your impressions of them two?
It's early days.
Yeah.
And again, not to spoil anything. So I think it's early days. It'll be cool to see how they flesh the characters out. Kind of for me, more what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I think every design's cool. I like the Pokeballs around his hat. I think that's a quirky little feature, and really kind of sets him up to be the psychic type user.
Yeah, well, it's confirmed that he's going to be a psychic type user and she's going to be a poison type user. So we know that already from the information they've given us in the stream. So yeah, what we'll do then in that case is we'll look at each one individually. So first let's look at Clara. I just want you to just tell me what you think about her design, what you think her personality is going to be like. I mean, we did meet her in Wedgehurst after the stream because they updated the game, so you do meet her in Wedgehurst and you get to interact with her. What was your impressions of her?
So I actually haven't done that yet.
Okay.
I haven't gone to the station.
Fair enough.
I haven't gone to say hello.
Yeah.
But look, basically purely off the trailer.
Yeah.
I guess the first thing for me, and it's always been a bugbear of the franchise, is when you're 10 years old, which is what you're meant to be in this game.
Yeah.
There's no need for characters to be as provocative as I think she is.
Okay.
And let me get that out. I have no qualms about saying, sometimes I really do disagree with the way that this franchise handles females.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of putting that to one side, and I think for people who are able to put that to one side, kind of thing, I'm sure she's going to be an interesting character. There's clearly some mystery there, and you can tell that she's a gym going trainer by the uniform she's wearing. So and to me it looks like the dragon type gym uniform a bit. The legs are obviously different, but the shorts remind me of Rahan's gym in what am I saying? Not Hammerhead.
Yeah.
Hammerhead.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes. They remind me of the gym clothes that he had on, or his trainers had on. So maybe there's a connection there that we'll get to hear more about.
Just for balance, obviously, I'm just going to straight up say I disagree with you. I think it's perfectly fine what she's wearing, to be fair, and I do think that there are characters in the Pokemon franchise that they're not like very provocative. Sorry, Caitlyn, for example. You've got Hapu, for example. Sabrina as well. I don't think she is, but I kind of disagree with what you're saying there. But I actually think her design is on purpose, right? So what I want to actually bring into this is some more anime stuff. So people who've watched Kimetsu no Yaiba or Demon Slayer, she looks not exactly like, but very similar to Shinobu from it, where she's got like this hairband. Or not hairband, a hairpin that kind of resembles like a butterfly or a moth. She's got that very cool cape-looking thing on her. And actually, if you fuse her with Mitsuru, who's one of the Hashiras from the series, they're basically, if you fusion, Shinobu and Mitsuru together, it's basically there. You've got Clara over there. But you meet her in the game, and her personality is actually very similar to Shinobu's over here, because they seem very friendly, they seem very nonchalant, but it's to an unsettling degree where you just know that they've got something in the background that they're going to hit you with later on in the sort of expansion. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think Clara's design complements her personality, or what I perceive to be her personality, where the get-up seems very cute, but I think that's a way of lulling you into like a false sense of security. Like I'm convinced that she's hiding another side of her, which we'll probably see later on. But that's what I sort of thought of her character. So I'm going to move on in a second. Well, I should say both of them are poison type users. But before I move on to Avery, is there anything else you want to say, or anything you want to come back to me with? Or
no, I mean, you said a bunch of words I don't understand there, which is
because of the anime.
No, I mean it's hard. It's on one hand, I'm like, it's really cool that they're potentially paying homage to this other thing, and they're trying to draw references.
I don't think they are, by the way. I think it's a massive coincidence, but
see, yeah. You might say it might be, but you look at the Pokemon series as a whole. Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee. The Pokemon is not afraid to make references to either real life or other franchises, and in very subtle ways. Mr. Rhyme is arguably Charlie Chaplin. There's lots of call-outs and shout-outs there and references to other people or characters. So if that's what they're going for, then more power to them.
Oh, fair enough. So we'll move on to Avery in that case. And you play on Sword, so you haven't met him, have you?
Not yet.
No. But what's your initial impressions of Avery over here then in that case?
I know. I think it looks good.
Yeah.
I wonder. I mean, I can tell that the clothes are that of a psychic type user, because you can buy them from the shops in the game.
Oh, really? Cool. I haven't done much shopping, so
it's the one big downside of the gym game is you can't you can only wear them kind of casually walking around,
Okay.
which is a real bugbear because they let you unlock gym outfits as you go through the story, but you can only wear them casually when you're walking around, and then when you go and do your gym challenge, you've got to wear the generic white uniform again. But hey, that aside, I think he's a cool looking character. It would be interesting to see if they put any other angles on him in terms of his background and his personality, but too early to say at this stage.
So what I really like about Avery is that he manages to pull off what he's wearing somehow, because I think on any other person it would look really strange. But it's really cool that he's floating the Pokeballs above his head, and with what I assume to be his own psychic powers. And it's a nice reminder that in the world of Pokemon, you do have people that have these sorts of powers. Like we already know Sabrina, she's got psychic powers from the anime and the game, but now we've got Avery as well, who's doing the same thing, where he's got actual psychic powers. And I think that's really cool to add to the Pokemon world, that a reminder people also have power, not only Pokemon. So that's really cool, I think. I met him in Wedgehurst, and he seemed to be a very posh, well-spoken person. He seems very gentlemanly. Is very kind, and I think that explains the top hat, I guess. That's just me making stereotypes there, but no, he seems like a pretty chilled out dude, polite guy, and I think he's going to be a real pleasure to work with in the dojo. So yeah, I look forward to that. But actually, something that you can notice from these two. So with Avery, on his top hat, he's got twisted spoons, right? And with Clara, she's got this hairpin or a bow that resembles a Dustox. If you look at the circles, it resembles Dustox's circles. Are they gonna have Alakazam and Dustox as their signature Pokemon? And are they gonna be Galarian forms? What do you think?
So it would be cool. Actually, I hadn't thought of that because they haven't announced Galarian forms, but obviously they have announced. They have announced the 100 Pokemon that will be returning with the first DLC. Neither Alakazam nor Dustox were in that list.
Right.
So if they are coming back, it will be as Galarian forms, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But that would be cool. Something I hadn't thought about, actually, and that would be quite exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be pokey fashion. It could be just that, but I just literally, when I saw her bow, it literally looks like Dustox's circles on there. So I think it's a bit too in your face to be a coincidence, but again, we'll probably see later on. Yeah, so those are the two that we're going to be meeting later on in the dojo. So the stream then moves on to a legendary Pokemon that's said to be central to the story. And this Pokemon is going to be striving to become stronger with single-minded dedication, and I just think he looks freaking cool, and he looks like Kon from Bleach. But yeah, no. What do you think about Kubfu?
I mean, he's great. He's cute. He's he's cute. I can't say anything more than that. I think it's nice to see a legendary that isn't all kind of fangs and claws and all that stuff. It's nice to see someone who's going to kind of looks like he's going to be ready to train alongside you. And as was announced in the Pokemon Direct, he will evolve.
Yeah. We'll get there.
I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. But he looks cute, and he'll be a nice little mascot for this DLC.
Yeah, I mean he's a fighting type, which is very appropriate for you being in a dojo, obviously. And its ability is inner focus, so that's going to be preventing flinching in most circumstances. So that's a little detail there. No idea if this legendary will have a hidden ability, but yeah. So that's what we know about Kubfu so far. Kubfu Panda is what I'm going to call mine. But yeah, no, let's move on to Urshifu then. So this Pokemon is said that it's going to be, it's said to be able to evolve, and it will evolve into Urshifu. And with Urshifu, there's going to be two different styles. There's going to be a single strike style and a rapid style, which is so the first one's going to be dark and fighting, and the other one's going to be water and fighting. It also has a Gigantamax form, and they'll have two different G moves. There's new abilities and moves, so there's plenty to be excited about. You'll be able to bring these Pokemon into online and to the competitions online. So I'm guessing they're going to be balanced enough to be used in official play. But let's talk about the abilities then for a second, actually, because on the Pokemon website, their abilities are called Unseen Fist. What do we think that's in reference to? What do you think the ability is going to be about?
So I'm wondering if Unseen Fist means that the move doesn't make contact or can hit through protect or something like that.
Oh shit! I didn't even consider it. That's actually pretty cool.
Something that maybe is a mechanic that we and maybe unseen. I mean, I know we've seen abilities before that prevent Pokemon from making contact with direct contact moves.
Yeah.
And Decidueye's hidden ability comes to mind there.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's a move that can hit through protect or detect or something like that.
Yeah. I sort of thought that Unseen Fist is that, he's swinging his fist so quickly that it might actually give priority to fighting type moves, but that would be kind of broken. I'd say it would be kind of broken if he had priority on all its fighting type moves, so it probably isn't that, but, it sounds pretty cool, and I like their designs. And let's talk about design for a second. Their Gigantamax forms look amazing, like crazy. They look cool. Just look at them too.
They make me think of the Power Rangers.
Actually, no, you're right. They do look like Power Rangers, but I think also what's interesting is that they're both going to have two different typings. I do like water fighting a lot. It reminds me of Keldeo more than I like fighting dark. What do you think about their typings?
Yeah, I mean, for me, just off the top of my head, water fighting feels like the more competitive of the two options.
Mm-hmm.
Fighting dark carries with it some weaknesses that are probably ones to avoid in the competitive scene, but maybe that's a conversation we know a bit more
sure.
about them.
But yeah, we will be doing a separate show on that. But no, that they look pretty cool. And so from that, talking about Gigantamax Pokemon, we got some more revealed actually. And these are our starters. Our starters are getting Gigantamax form in the Isle of Armor. Now, it's said that there'll be a person that can teach your Cinderace, Inteleon, or Rillaboom how to Gigantamax. What's your impression of your starters' Gigantamax forms then?
I mean, okay, so the Cinderace looks cool.
Yeah.
I like
it should have a captain's armband for sure, though. I couldn't find one, but it should have a captain's armband. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair enough. I know the internet is going absolutely crazy over Inteleon being a gun-wielding sniper.
Hey. It's not a real gun. It's a water gun, right?
Right.
I'm just saying, it's a water gun. It's not that harmful.
No. All good. In his little sniper tower. Rillaboom looks more... I think, to be honest, I need to see the design a bit more. He looks crazy. I'd love to know a bit more of the detail in kind of what's going on thought process-wise, but it looks like he's got a full drum kit, and that's probably all he could ever ask for.
Do you know when I saw Rillaboom, the first thing that came into mind was the Dairy Milk advert with the gorilla playing the Phil Collins In the Air Tonight thing?
That's a great advert.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to call mine Phil Collins, just because he looks like that. But Cinderace being on a massive fucking fireball, that's crazy. I love that. And yeah, I wonder what the G-Max move is going to be like for Cinderace. Since Fireball is so good to begin with, I wonder what the G-Max move is going to be.
Yeah, I wonder if they make reference to whatever he's floating on and it becomes some kind of canon or football-esque reference. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, he's just taking a penalty and he just destroys you.
If he destroys the goal, he does.
Yeah. So we'll move on from those Gigantamax forms. Now, actually, so Charizard got a Gigantamax form, but our boys have got a Gigantamax form. Venusaur and Blastoise are back with Gigantamax forms, and I just see those two, and I'm like, Venusaur looks like me that needs a haircut constantly, and bloody Blastoise looks like a freaking fortress. I love them. I love them to bits.
I have to say, yeah, I like Blastoise. I'm still coming to terms with some of the Gigantamax designs. I don't think they are, for me at least, doing as much for me as Mega Evolutions did. And I think a lot of that is rooted in them being sort of organic, living, breathing creatures.
Yeah.
And then some of them transforming into like UFOs, or, Blastoise seems to have this kind of mechanical fortress on his back. And I think for me that loses some of the kind of animalistic sense of what a Pokemon is.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that what they're doing is kind of taking the designs and taking them to the extreme. But for some of them, I think, for me, I lose a bit of that kind of personality and kind of the fact that they are kind of creatures when I see some of the Gigantamax forms. And I'm sure that will change with time. And I remember being very against Mega Evolution when it first came out. And
so was I actually. So, and I love Mega Evolution now. So,
and I'm sure that will just take some time. But I think for me, there are some Gigantamaxes that are really clever and really well designed, and some that I think are a bit more kind of gimmicky and just trying to make a reference or a joke for the sake of it.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I mean, I personally really like these designs, and I also think that Gigantamax forms are a waste. I would have preferred them to be Mega Evolution forms, but yeah, no, I like them. I like them. So yeah, it's just opinions, really, isn't it? Which is fair enough. But we'll move on from this Gigantamax talk then, and then we'll talk about the next thing that was shown off. And yeah, there's 3 things that are coming to the Isle of Armor, and so these 3 things are tutor moves, apricorns, and experience charm. Now we'll start off with tutor moves. It says that these will be completely new moves that have never been seen in other Pokemon games, which is crazy. I'm excited to see what sort of new moves we're going to get. They removed some moves from the game. For example, Pursuit was removed in this generation, so that's why Ghosts are so good in this generation, because there's no Pursuit users around. So I wonder if we're going to get moves to replace those old moves. What are your thoughts on getting new moves into the game?
Oh, it's going to be exciting. It's always one of those things that, because I tend to like to get into the competitive side of things quite quickly. So it'll be exciting to see what kind of impact that has. New moves are always fun, especially when they're really well kind of thought out, and when they're different to what we have before, and not just kind of moves that are a little bit more powerful or a little less powerful, but actually things that have got really quirky effects. I'm hoping that we get some of those.
We'll come to Apricorns in a second, but the experience charm, earn more experience points for your team. Not really going to matter to you with the way you do things, but it's a cool little additional thing, I guess. Just whatever.
There's speculation, and I'm starting to understand where it's coming from. That if the journey for Sword and Shield is actually to have these stories that are continuing, whether we may finally see the level cap past 100.
Oh, sugar! No, I did not even think about that. Yeah,
because and suddenly the XP charm
seems like I didn't want to get into this now, but we might as well. I was just thinking, so when you do get to these new isles, what sort of level Pokemon are going to be around? Because most people would have maximized their in-game team to level 100 and whatever, and so will you have to get new Pokemon to be roughly the same size, roughly the same level as Pokemon in the wild area in the Isle of Armor, or how would that work? So you're sort of speculating that there might be a broken level cap now, where you might get level 120. There's a couple
different ways to do it. The first is obviously break the level cap. It's been the same for 25 years. There's no reason why they couldn't.
Yeah.
And if they are going to kind of continue this story on and on, certainly if it goes on for more than just 2 DLCs, there will come a point where doing that feels like a very logical thing to do.
Yeah.
The alternative, of course, is that they introduce a way to rescale your Pokemon. So either that the enemies scale to the level you are. Yeah. So if you're level 75, they are level 75. The other one is that they scale your Pokemon back. So when you're fighting important battles like the ones in the dojo or gym battles or whatever it might be, your Pokemon are set to a specific level to make the challenge more difficult.
So a bit like online with the level 50 competition cap then, in that case.
Yeah, exactly like that. And obviously that mechanic works very well because you get everyone on a level playing field very quickly. Okay. And it means that no matter how long you've played the game for, level 50 is a pretty obtainable state for any Pokemon. So, it means that there's no kind of barrier to entry for people in that regard. Okay. The other thing is obviously that Kubfu could be a mandatory part of your team, and if Kubfu isn't a strong Pokemon, then that brings its own challenges.
I mean, we know that the entire area for this Isle of Armor is going to be like a wild area, so I wonder how it will affect things outside of your mandatory story stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, certainly. So let's transition from this to a topic I'm very passionate about, and that's Apricorns are back, baby. People who remember the second generation will remember that you could pick Apricorns and take him to Kurt to turn into a ball, and these balls are obviously available in Sword and Shield already, but the Apricorns to make the balls aren't. So I'm just wondering, are we getting Kurt back in this game? Is he finally coming back, or is his daughter going to be like coming to the Galar region or the Isle of Armor, and is she going to be taking over from her grandfather? And will we get new ball designs? What's going to happen? I'm so excited! Go on, let's go.
Honest, it was the first thing I thought about when I saw that they were bringing apricorns back is that if it's not a reference to Kurt himself will be there. So that's exciting to think about. He's a character that lots of people loved in Generation 2. He has a reasonably prominent role in the game, and I'm sure that people who play those games will have a fond memory of him.
And are we getting the GS ball? Hey, are they going to do it? Those madmen? Are we going to finally get a resolution to it?
I don't know.
It's a stretch too far, but do you think we're going to get new apricons and therefore new balls, or are you thinking that they're going to stick to the ones that are already in game and leave it at that?
It wouldn't surprise me if they introduce one more. They've got plenty of colours left to use, so it wouldn't surprise me if they introduce one or two more. That might be fun for collectors. Mm-hmm. But certainly just getting more of the ones that already exist would be nice. I know that people can get quite precious about the type of ball that they use to catch certain Pokemon in. And,
it's a nice little thing to customize your Pokemon, it's an additional option.
It just adds a little personal touch to it,
exactly.
Especially the effect that you get when it appears in battle, like to get a spray of moons or.
So that was introduced in Gen 6, wasn't it? X and Y, where the ball now made a difference to how it comes out. Was that Gen 6?
It's actually been around. I don't know if it was in Gen 2. It was definitely Gen 3, a lot less prominent.
Yeah.
So the Master Ball, for example, had a purple circle, and the Ultra Ball had little black circles. I have to go back and check. But the effects have always been there. It's just that now with games that are 3D and obviously a lot more graphically deep, you notice the effect a lot more. So although it's always been there, and I remember people, back in Generation 3 liking Permeables because they had quite an interesting effect. I can understand the appeal for true collectors of wanting to get certain Pokemon and certain kinds of balls.
Yeah. I was thinking about Gen 4 actually, and you had, I think it was Gen 4 that had the seals on your Pokeballs, and you can throw them out and you get a different color. That was correct, wasn't it? Seals.
Yeah, it's a shame I never brought that back because I had a lot of.
You had a lot of seals, did you?
I had all of them, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because you cut out for a second, but no, that's great. So we'll move on from that then. Actually, one thing that I didn't notice on the trailer, but I actually saw on the website, was that the Isle of Armor will introduce a new way to challenge yourself to some new battles. With restricted sparring, so this is the new thing, restricted sparring, you'll be limited to in what types your Pokemon can be used, and forced to battle under certain conditions. So that's pretty cool. So a reference to, I don't know, monotype battles and just restrictions. So maybe you can't use a Pokemon that has a fire type move or something like that. And I think where you're going to be doing this is during the trailer. You see this pagoda looking building with the dojo symbol. So I'm thinking that building maybe is where you do the restricted sparring. But yeah, it's all speculation at this point. But that's a cool little thing to bring up.
Yeah, I'm all for them introducing more forms of challenge. I maintain that the what was it called? Not the Battle Factory. What was it called in Generation 3?
Frontier?
Battle Frontier remains probably the greatest kind of challenge that Pokemon has ever had in the games. I still to this day can't beat the Battle Factory, and it's driving me crazy, and I play it literally all the time, and I still can't beat it. I've got, I think, although I'm playing on an emulator, so I do fast forward, something like 800 hours across my life trying to achieve it, and I just can't because the game hates me and RNG sucks. But it is one of the kind of most fun challenges, is actually the game really kind of pinning you down to certain parameters and making you think a lot more kind of flexibly. And it not being player versus player means that it's not a frustrating experience because it is beatable, and at the end of the day, there are strategies that can win.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have things that do make the post game and the post story more interesting and a bit more of a challenge for people who want to go a step further than just the story.
So we'll move on from restricted sparring then in that case, and then we'll go to, I think, one of the last things revealed for the Isle of Armor is that we're getting our boy Galarian Slowpoke, and he's actually available now. If you go to Wedgehurst Station, you might have noticed that Nurse Joy, or whoever she is now, is telling you to go there, but this is what you'll encounter, Galarian Slowpoke, and just his design looks really cool. And I've just put an image of a shiny Galarian Slowpoke that looks like Homer Simpson. I have to give credit to Reddit user Trafalgar_Rick for that image. But yeah, no, Galarian Slowpoke, what do you think about it?
I think the Homer Simpson image is fantastic. Whoever came up with that, that's great.
It is brilliant.
I mean, it's cool. I'm all for I wasn't when they first came out, I must admit. Alolan forms for me felt like a cop out to designing new Pokemon, but the more
Oh, come on, man.
but to be honest, I think for some people it was this thing of like, we want new Pokemon and we want all these new things, and actually to get a Pokemon that's just a variant of one we've had already felt like a cheap answer.
I
But
disagree,
actually,
man.
when you started to get into the game and
Yeah.
you kind of understand them and you realize that actually the whole idea of kind of adaptation and then being localized.
Yes, exactly. That's what made them so
makes sense,
cool.
and it makes sense. It makes sense from a biological perspective. It makes sense from an ecology perspective, and actually the Pokemon were well thought out and well designed and made sense in the environment. And
apart from Raichu,
I'm excited to see if there's some story behind Galarian Slowpoke. He's a cute little guy, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, apart from Raichu, who apparently had too many pancakes and then got a psychic typing, but yeah, okay, fair enough. So actually, Galarian Slowpoke is going to be psychic only, and the thing with Galarian Slowpoke is the difference between normal Slowpoke and this one's a bit more slouched, and it's got like a yellow forehead and a yellow tail, and the website says this is because it's had too many. I think it was Galarica seeds, which are like a spice. So because it's had that many seeds, its tail and its forehead has changed as a consequence. And leading on from it eating too many spices, it'll have 2 evolutions which will be only available through an item found in the Isle of Armor. And obviously you got Slowbro and Slowking. Now they've cut out you know for Slowbro the top half of Slowbro and a bit of its body, but with Slowbro you can see its tail's turned purple and its arms are turned purple, and with Slowking they've hidden its head, but I think that there's gonna be like some sort of Pokemon that's not Cloyster now, so Cloyster doesn't want to eat the tail of the Slowbro because it's too spicy. Maybe like something like a Mareanie will latch onto it, and that's going to cause it to evolve. I don't know. That's what I'm sort of thinking anyway.
That sounds horrible. I saw the anime. I saw what Mareanie did when it jumped on your head.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
Well, Slowpoke might enjoy it, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe we won't notice.
We don't shame. We don't shame. But yeah, no, you can find Galarian Slowpoke in game. It only took it 2 months to actually realize that there is a Galar region, so good job to it, only taking 2 months instead of 9. But yeah, no, that's pretty much the end of the Isle of Armor for now. The next thing we should be talking about is the Crown Tundra that's revealed, and this is the second DLC. So the Crown Tundra is set in the Crown Tundra. The theme for this DLC is said to be discovery, and people are in this sort of place are said to be very community focused, and they rely on each other, which makes sense given that it's a very snowy environment, probably hard to get by day to day. So it makes a lot of sense. We're told that there's going to be we'll be able to discover temples when we least expect it. There'll be giant trees and places where they don't belong. I wonder if that means that things are going to be procedurally generated. I don't think it will be. I think this might be a step too far for Pokemon at this time, but it'd be cool if it is. And I
do feel sometimes it's a shame that we have to couch it like that. That we feel like something that is definitely within the realms of possibility for every other franchise feels like it's a stretch too far for Pokemon.
Which it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
Everything should be on the table.
But here we are, shills just accepting what we get. Like, please, sir, can we have some more? That kind of stuff. But our characters look really cool. I like the gear they're decked out in. It looks nice. But apparently there's going to be a certain guy who's going to give us this gear, and he will point us as these lead explorers. I think we sort of see him in the first trailer, and he looks pretty cool. You can see him laughing in one of the shots, so I think he's going to be a cool guy. But apart from that, yeah, he's going to make us lead the explorers, and we're going to have to go through these blizzard-swept fields and explore Pokemon dens. And after that, we see Calyrex. Calyrex is a legendary Pokemon. Used to be a ruler over a part of Galar, and it looks really weird. What do you think?
I mean, its design is quirky. I know I've seen reference it to other things, not dissimilar to Clara and Avery's designs. I think it's definitely a shout out to something. What I don't know, but it's a quirky design. I like that. It's doing something different. It's not just a stag or a deer. It's something that is quirky, and I'm sure that there'll be good reasons. It's a psychic type, so maybe that has some influence.
Psychic grass.
The thing that it is on its head, but let's wait and see where the story takes us.
And I guess its head is reference to a crown because it is the king Pokemon. So okay, fair enough. It's gonna have Unnerve, so I think Unnerve is the one where you can't eat berries, right? That's Unnerve, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, that makes sense. It looks like it's got berries around its neck as a necklace, but that aside, I mean, you did mention Clara and Avery for a second there, and I actually forgot to say with Galarian, Slowbro, and Slowking, I actually think they're going to be Psychic Poison, and that's going to be the reference to Avery and Clara, because you both encounter them when you see Slowpoke.
Oh, that would make sense.
I think that's what's going to happen. But yeah, enough of that. There's going to be a new co-op mode. So co-op in this game is okay. I mean, co-op really is just going around picking up bags of pasta from people in the wild area and doing max raid battles, but apparently you can explore Pokemon dens together, and this is really cool because when we look at dens we only see the light coming out of the dens. You don't really get to go inside the den and see the Pokemon inside the den, so I think that might change. And apparently we know we're going to get legendary Pokemon that can Dynamax in these dens, so I think that's a really cool thing to add. I mean, it would be cool to come online, get you online, and then we'll go through a den together and we'll find some interesting stuff together. I wonder if that means that you can duplicate Pokemon, with all the stuff that's been happening. But yeah, what do you think of the whole Pokemon Den thing being available to explore?
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of co-op.
Yeah.
See, I forgot to.
You're just breaking out a little bit.
The one thing with I'm a big fan of is more co-op playing Pokemon, and one of the things, actually, just going back to our earlier discussion about Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, is if that game was genuine co-op where you could control individual members of the team and you were all playing together, I'd buy that game in a heartbeat because that sounds brilliant.
Yeah,
but no, I'm all for more co-op play. I hope it's more than just kind of you all kind of walking through and fighting wave after wave of battles to get to a legendary. I hope that there's some genuine exploration and ways to get it right and wrong.
What if it's like DPP where you go underground, you break tiles and stuff like that?
Yeah, I wonder what it will be like. That sounds not too far off what I've kind of got in mind.
So maybe these dens will be what we're talking about, as in procedurally generated stuff. Maybe that will be what we'll get out of this. Maybe that will be a good step in the right direction for Pokemon, I think, especially when it comes to exploring games that are procedurally generated.
Without an element of kind of to the post game as well.
Okay, yeah. So we'll move on from the co-op then in that case. So we actually see 2 new Reggies, and there's a red looking one and there's a yellow one. Now obviously the yellow one has to be electric, right? We're in agreement of that, right?
Yeah, I think that's true.
I think it's really cool that they've added new Titans into the game. I wonder what that means for Regigigas. Are we going to get another version of it? I don't know, but it's cool that we're getting more Reggies. It makes sense. The world's made up of all these different elements. There should be more Reggies in that case then, because these are Titans of elements, aren't they? So
yeah, no, it'd be cool to see how many we get, and I wonder if over time we will get the full complement of every single type.
Yeah, and so I'm speculating the name of this Reggie is probably going to be something like Regizolt. What do you think?
That's not a bad guess.
Yeah, Regizolt or something like that. Or Regielectric? No, doesn't work.
Regielectric.
It sounds like one of those kind of kits you get as a kid. Regielectric. Cars racing around. I'll move on from that then. in terms of the red looking one, so there's speculation as to whether or not it's a poison one or if it's a dragon one. What do you think that would be?
It reminds me of Mega Mawile.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So obviously I know a lot of people have jumped to Dark. I think that's probably the right answer. But it'd be cool if it was a fairy type or something like that as well. Something a bit kind of more unexpected.
So you don't
But
think it?
Dragon definitely seems like the right answer.
Yeah, and if it's Dragon, it gets to be Reggie Drake, which I've put up on the screen. And this comes courtesy of Reddit user Logan Aweaver. So give him a thumbs up on Reddit or whatever. But yeah, no, Reggie Drake looks pretty cool. But we'll move on from that then. In that case, now this moment is where I think Pokemon put the balls on the table and they're like, we're doing it. We're just doing it. We have to do it now. And that is legendary Pokemon with new forms. You see Moltres, a dark looking Moltres. You've got a Zapdos that looks like a Chocobo, and you've got an Articuno that looks like a member of Team Break from Pokemon Masters. But they all look pretty cool, I'd say. And I just thought it was really interesting that Pokemon have come to the point where I don't know whether or not these are Galarian forms or if these are like relatives of Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno. I don't know which one it's going to be, but I think it's really, really gutsy of them to do something like this. And I'm looking forward to encountering them in game and seeing what sort of role they play in the games. Because in the key artwork, you can see shadows of them at different points of the mountain peak. But what do you think about this?
I mean, I'm excited. I'm a big fan of any chance for it to come back. I'm always. And I guess probably for me, this doesn't feel like such a big leap
You don't?
in terms of taking a big step. I mean, we had mega evolutions of legendaries. You know, Mewtwo could mega evolve, and I think for a lot of people that didn't feel too uncomfortable. So for me, this isn't completely out there and crazy. I think it's still within the realms of reasonable for Pokemon, but it's definitely cool to see them make a comeback, and hopefully they will be different to what we've seen before in a big way.
I don't know, because I think many people would have the perception that a legendary Pokemon, there's only one of them at any time. Now we already know from the Pokemon anime at least that the legendary Pokemon can have children and stuff like that. For example, you see baby Lugia in one of the episodes where Ash is helping it.
Lugia is the one that comes up a lot. There's also...
Oh, you've just broken up there. Do you want to repeat yourself?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So Lugia is the one that comes up most
frequently. Yep.
But Kyogre appears a few different times as well. They're definitely ones.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think with Mega Evolution you still have the base legendary and you're just giving it additional power, but with this you're changing a legendary, an established legendary that you already know, its base form. You're changing its base form, and that's why I think it's a bit bigger than just comparing it to Mega Evolutions. But again, it's going to be really interesting to see. It
made me wonder if maybe they were going to be like fusion forms, a bit like we had with Zekrom and Reshiram, where they fuse with Kyurem to form different forms.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's maybe something like that going on.
Now that would be a big step. That would be a big step, Poke Fusions. But just not, because with Kyurem, with Zekrom, with what's the other one? Reshiram. You had the Splicer obviously, and there was a whole lore as to why it can combine, but if you have every Tom, Dick, and Harry Pokemon being able to do that, that changes the game. That changes the game.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I don't think every Pokemon will be able to do that. I wonder if there's a specific reason why these, and maybe that Lugia or someone like that is involved in that story, because Lugia and the legendary birds have a role together. But
yeah,
we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Okay, so that does it for the Crown Tundra. I mean, I think I'd be killed if I didn't mention this, but obviously you got new clothes in the game now, and they showed you looking like Chairman Rose. You're looking like Marnie, for example. So yeah, just some new customization options. I mean, I still need to go to the shops and buy some new clothes. I know you will mock me for it, but
I think to be honest, the clothing customizations will be very gratefully received.
Yeah,
I know that particularly for the male characters, the options were pretty sparse. Particularly the options that were kind of looking good.
Yeah,
I know that females have 3 or 4 times the number of options that a male character in Sword and Shield, and that's always been a kind of mainstay of the Pokemon games. There's tended to be more assets, whether it's clothing or hairstyles or whatever, for female characters than males, which has always been a bit of a bugbear for me. It's a shame. I would like to have more options to kind of design my character and personalize it more. But hopefully these expansions will add many more options, and it will add a bit more kind of personality to everyone's characters.
Cool. I'll leave this image up for a little while, but outside of the Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor, a couple of things were said. Now there'll be new battle changes waiting for you post completion of the DLC. Now I'm speculating that these might be gyms, because before Sword and Shield had come out, there was an interview done, and I can't remember who was it with, but there was talk of having minor gyms and obviously the major gyms that we know about. But we know these minor gyms are gyms for some people who are aiming to become major gym leaders, and the only way to do that is by beating the major gym leaders. So I just think, are we getting more gyms at the end of the Isle of Armor stuff? Is Avery, is Clara going to have their own minor gym now, where they've got into that kind of sort of world, and are you going to be able to challenge it? Is that going to be what they're talking about with new battle changes waiting for you post completion?
Yeah, I mean, Piers makes reference to it several times during the story, where he talks about being demoted as a official gym and things like that. So in theory, if there are always 8 of them, there must be another one to take its place. And also, other regions in the Pokemon universe. Unova comes to mind. I think Unova had some 10 or 13 gyms. Kanto definitely had more than just 8.
Yeah, Gary had 10 badges, didn't he? So
and he had some that Ash never obtained.
Yeah.
So in theory, there are more than 12 gyms in Kanto as well. So the idea is not a foreign one, that there are more gyms than just the kind of ones that we were getting in the game. And if that's a way of kind of bringing them in, then that would be cool.
I mean, what we see in the game and what we see in the anime are two different sort of things.
Sorry, I lost you there for a sec.
What we see in the game and what we see in the anime are two different little things. Where in the game you've got an enclosed area for a town and that's it. But when the town's translated in the anime, it's a bigger sort of thing. So it's not wild to think that there's various gyms around the place that we haven't seen before. That's for sure. Is all I was going to say.
And I guess some of that is just trying to make the anime kind of as believable as possible, and obviously putting them in a setting that's constrained by the ability of a developer to produce a very detailed, living, breathing world is obviously an unfair ask on the game developers. So I can understand why the world in the anime is richer and bigger, and cities are 2,
but I'm saying
3,
it's not
5,
it's not out of the realm of possibility that there are other gyms around the place. So
of course not.
And I think that's really cool. I think that's really cool if that's what's going to happen, that these expansions are going to allow us to encounter more. And you know me already, I love the concept of gyms. I just love getting the badges and all that kind of stuff. It's my thing. I really like it. So I can't wait for it, really, if that's what we're going to get. But the other thing that we were given is that the best part of the both DLCs is that the entire map will be like the wild area with fully controllable camera. Thank you, God. And I think one of my biggest criticisms about the wild area is it's just a bit plain. There's not much there. There's really not much there. But looking at the Isle of Armor, and less so the Crown Tundra, because we haven't seen too much of the Crown Tundra, but definitely the Isle of Armor, being able to walk around the place, enter buildings, but at the same time go into the grass, see Pokemon there, see there's dens there and stuff like that, it adds to it. It really does add for it, and I'm really grateful that they're doing something like this. Really grateful for it.
Yeah, and I mean, at times it feels almost jarring to go from this, manipulate the camera, look around, zoom in, zoom out, do all of these things, and then go into a city and a town, and the camera's locked and fixed, and it can get a bit jarring. And I'll flick the right stick because I want to see around a building or something, and I can't. And it'll be nice to have an environment that is truly kind of free camera and gives you that opportunity.
And it'll be nice to explore a wild area that isn't just a couple of lakes, a little breeding center to your right, and that's it. So yeah, no, that'll be cool. But I guess the most significant part of the whole sort of news is that over 200 Pokemon are returning, some of which we already know. Garchomp, for example, Chansey, goddammit, Volcarona is coming back. You got Dedenne, Lycanroc. So you'll be getting Pokemon back, which is really interesting. And these Pokemon won't be locked behind a paywall. Now, in terms of catching them, you'll have to get the DLCs in order to catch them, but you can receive them through link trades even if you don't have the DLC, which is really cool, or you can bring them from Pokemon Home, which is really cool as well. Any thoughts on 200 new Pokemon? I mean, we will talk about the meta consequences of them on next week's episode, but what are your thoughts on 200 Pokemon being back in the game?
I mean, let's talk about the price point of thing in a second, because it's a really interesting point.
We'll come to that at the end of the whole thing.
But yeah, obviously for a lot of people this is fantastic. It's great that Pokemon that will be people's favorites because I think there's only two Pokemon there was a Reddit survey where they listed every Pokemon, and I think it was 10,000 people who voted. Not a single Pokemon had 0 votes.
Yeah.
So whatever happens, someone's favorite is coming back. It was a great, and I hope they finish off the arc and bring everyone back by the end of the kind of last DLC story. I'm sure they'll make more after these two, because it'd be great to have everyone in. In a way, it's kind of nice to have had it staggered. From a competitive perspective, it's nice because you kind of have a pool of Pokemon that's a bit smaller to work with, and you can be a bit more strategic in what you do and don't do because of what's out there. With a pool of 900 Pokemon, that becomes a lot more difficult. But I'm up for that challenge, and we'll talk about that more next week. But
yeah, I'm quite excited about next week's episode because there's a lot of things I'm thinking about when I'm thinking, oh, it's really going to be cool to use this, that, and the other. But yeah, we'll come back to it next week. But I think this further confirms the fact that it never was about not being able to make the models. Well, no, sorry. Let me restart that. It was never about competitive balancing. I always thought that was a BS excuse. I think they just didn't have enough time to bring these Pokemon into the games, and this is why we're seeing them with DLC now. That's my opinion.
And I mean, at the end of the day, with the competitive scene, there's ways around that. You can restrict certain Pokemon, and we're seeing that in an upcoming tournament at the end of January. So
yeah,
for me, that's never been a valid excuse, but. Yeah. We're making progress.
Yeah. So I just hope this is not the thing where, in next generations where they're going to be like, okay, National Dex Pokemon, look behind DLC, wait for the DLC, and then you can get all the National Dex Pokemon. Don't do that to people. Let people complete the game and then let them encounter their National Dex Pokemon, or let them at least bring their National Dex Pokemon into the game once they've completed the game. That's what I think, but... yeah, we'll get into it next week. And I've just put some memes on the screen. But anyway, talking about bringing your National Dex Pokemon over, we're getting Pokemon Home, which is good news bears next month, because my box is full. I need the space. Please give me it. Now, I found evidence to suggest this is going to be a paid service, so I am praying that if you've got Pokemon Bank and you're paying for Pokemon Bank, the subscription will carry over. I really hope that it's not just here's another subscription, pay for it. So what are your thoughts on Pokemon Home being available February 2020, and what are your thoughts on it being a paid service?
Firstly, it's great. It's great news that it's coming. I think it's a step in the right direction, because it means that for people who want to be competitive, for people who want to bring their old Pokemon back who they love, it's the right thing to do to keep momentum with the franchise. So it's great that it's coming, and it came a lot sooner than I think Bank did for Generation 6 when it came out. So that's nice, and it'll be cool to bring Pokemon from Generation 7 forward again, and certainly like special Pokemon or shinies and things like that. Nice to get them into the game. Obviously, some of them still can't get in. Some of them will be outside of the 200 new Pokemon that are coming back, and
they'll be stuck at the border.
They will, but it's a step in the right direction. I do wonder with Home whether it will just be a kind of storage service, or whether we're going to get more than just that. And I do hope it's more than that. We'll talk about it in a second, but certainly just to get Pokemon from Generation 7 back, into Generation 8 is going to be a big tick for me.
And I think what people don't realize is if your Switch breaks and it's unrepairable, your Pokemon are gone. Your Pokemon are gone, because your save data is no longer on your cart, it's actually on your actual Switch. So if you've done a living dex like I have, and I know many people are attempting to, if my Switch breaks at any time, those Pokemon, sayonara, I'm not seeing them ever again.
Cloud saving is available.
Sorry?
I could be wrong. Isn't cloud saving available?
You can't cloud save. You can't cloud save with Pokemon, and I think that's a sensible decision, just because it'll help with duplicating Pokemon for trading and stuff like that, and I don't think that's the direction anybody wants to go. So yeah, it's a bit gutting that it's not saved on the cart. I wish you had the option of having it both saved on your cart and on your Nintendo Switch system, and I'm confident in saying that. So if I'm wrong, please let me know at PokeRamblePod at gmail.com. But I think I'm confident in saying if your Switch breaks and you can't get your data back, Pokemon are gone. Full stop. So yeah, Pokemon Home is really good, but paid service, maybe it will be linked in with your Nintendo Online, which you pay for. That would be best case scenario, but
I wouldn't bet on that.
yeah, I know. But never mind, never mind. So yeah, one more thing about Pokemon you were gonna get into. I think you were saying about it not being just a single feature of this storage thing. You wanted more stuff in it, did you?
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool, particularly for the Pokemon that aren't in Sword and Shield, if there was a kind of lightweight battle your friends, in local PvP mode or something like that. So, if I'm on the same Wi-Fi network as someone, I a friendly little battle with someone on my phone or my Switch or whatever it ends up being on.
Yeah.
That would be nice. I think it's highly unlikely, but it would be cool.
I mean, I was really under the impression for this whole Pokemon Direct thing that you would get a 10-minute focus on Pokemon Home itself, where it's going to have all these different features where you can interact with your Pokemon within the box, kind of like how Sun and Moon gave you the Isle of Fun, the Isle or whatever. You could put your Pokemons in there, and they could do little tasks for you, and you can get little bonuses for that. So I thought we were going to get something like that, but we're getting it next month. So
I mean, with the Pokemon Global Link shutting down, don't be surprised if it come to fruition.
Yeah. So I think that's basically it for Pokemon Home for the time being. I expect that we'll get something in the next month detailing a bit more about Pokemon Home, especially its paid service and all that kind of stuff. But I suggest that it's going to come out at the end of February, not any time sooner than that, really. I think we can be in agreement of that, can't we?
Yeah, I think that's realistic.
The other thing that came out of the stream is that Gigantamax or Gigantamax, Flapple, Appleton, Lapras, and Colossal will be available in-game. In addition to that, you can actually find more Gigantamax Alchemies as well, and they'll have different forms, so make sure to catch a load of them if you're doing the Alchemy decks. I will be, but I'll be focusing on trying to get them all 6 IVs in certain balls, and I actually have to speak to you about what balls we need to put each Alchemy in, but that's a discussion for another time, I guess.
Yeah, sounds good.
But yeah, that was basically it for the stream. I mean, there was one thing that they did give us was you're going to be getting 2 pre-order bonuses should you pre-order the DLC. I think they're pre-order bonuses. I don't know if you'll get them after the fact, but your characters will get a special Pikachu gym shirt and a special Eevee gym shirt. So
you can get them straight away as soon as you've pre-ordered.
Have you done it?
The expansions? No, I haven't done it yet. Okay. But as soon as I've seen others who, as soon as you've as soon as you paid for the expansion pass, you'll get a code and you can put that through for the items.
Yeah, okay, and I think the last thing about the stream, before we give our overall thought about the direct, is the stream revealed that the price of DLC will be £27.99, or it'll be £29 US dollar, $29 US dollars, pounds. What do you think about the price? Because now you're going to get both the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra DLC for that price, but it's specific to one game. What do you think about the price?
I think the way I've tried to look at this is to say, actually, if I take Pokemon Sword, that's the version I have, and I add on the price of the DLC to what I paid for the game, I'm looking at a 75 quid game. Realistically, that's going to give me the story that I've played and the 2 DLC expansions. And for some people, that's going to be too steep. For some people, they'll say, actually, if I played Breath of the Wild or something along those lines, actually I got a lot more gameplay, a lot more story, a lot more kind of development work for what I paid. And I can definitely sympathise with that. I think it was probably a stretch too much to ask for it to be free DLC. I would have loved it if they'd have patched in post-game and more story for free.
Yeah.
In much the same way as other franchises have. But obviously, I don't think that was going to be a realistic expectation with Pokemon.
Sure.
They're adding a lot of things to it, and that's great. And obviously, I'm going to pick up the both DLCs with the expansion pass.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about it. But at the same time, I do kind of feel a little sore that this kind of content wasn't included in the base game,
yeah,
or at least content that gave me this level of depth.
Yeah, because definitely when you look at Spikemuth, for example, it's literally just a couple of buildings, a Pokemon Center, and then obviously your gym challenge. Not much more than that. The towns we sort of found in game and how the story progresses and how it suddenly rushes to the end. It was a bit. It left a sour taste in the mouth, but hey,
yeah, and actually, I think those two for me. And I know we'll do a kind of story spoiler cast, and we'll talk.
and it's going to be a bit similar. If I'll just break the stream for a second, it's going to be very similar to what I've done here, where we're pulling up images and we're talking about them as we see them. So that's the sort of style we're going to go for with that spoiler cast.
But I do feel like certainly the way the story certainly a bit rushed, but also actually if you just think about the level of kind of depth in the game, there were lots of towns where there were 1-2 houses that you can go into, and actually if you compare that to some of the older games, particularly I think of Generation 5 in Castelia City, where there were skyscrapers and you can go into 3 or 4 different floors in every building, and there were 14, 15 of them in a single city. It did feel a little disappointing to have something as big as Wyndon at the end of the game, where you've got this big, what feels like this very big city, but when you count the number of buildings you can actually walk into, it's less than you can count on one
and
hand.
some stuff is just part of the background. You can't even get anywhere near it, which is a bit disappointing. But I think you said something earlier to the stream that this is their first game on new hardware, and I think maybe perhaps now they've got more assets. I think going forward, perhaps with the next games, maybe Gen 9, maybe Gen 8.5, we might get a lot more there, and I think we'll be happier then. But
I'm wait and see. I mean, I wonder if Gen 8.5 will even exist at this point. I feel like the DLC is a nod to the fact that it maybe won't happen at all now. And what we may just get is a Sword and Shield Complete Edition in 2 years' time that has all of the DLC pre-installed and preloaded.
Okay, I've actually got some thoughts on that. Actually, we'll put into the next segment. But in terms of the price of DLC, I think £27 is pretty fair for what you're going to be getting. It seems like there's a significant amount of stuff that we're gonna be getting. I mean, we've talked for an hour and a half, and we've sort of been able to talk at length about some things, but rush through other things because we don't know enough details. But I think £27 for 2 DLCs is pretty good. And
I think don't get me wrong. I think if it had been 27 quid for the DLCs and that was it, I think I probably would have said maybe that's fair enough. But I think that a lot of the kind of criticisms I feel, and others do I know as well, is perhaps that the base game was pricey for what it contained, and maybe that some of this stuff should have been kind of not given away for free, but at a better price point than this to satisfy those who didn't necessarily feel they got their money's worth.
Because they couldn't lock the 200 Pokemon behind a paywall. They knew they couldn't do that. There would have been a massive misstep on their side, and that's really when you would have seen a shitstorm, to put it. But I think what we have to consider with the DLC as well is the fact that this avoids a third game, and with a third game, that price point is going to be £45, £50 for that game. So to get this expanded content for half of that price, I think is pretty good. It's a pretty good deal if that avoids the third game. So that's how I'm sort of looking at it. That's how I'm justifying my purchase, and I'll be getting it for both Sword and Shield. The differences are probably going to be minimal, but I just like playing through the game, so I'm going to probably buy both for Sword and for Shield, this DLC pack or expansion. But yeah, no, that's it really in terms of the pricing. There's no doubt that we're both going to get it anyway, aren't we?
Yeah, of course.
What we say with Shield. So so overall thoughts on Direct. I think the expansion frees up time for them to focus on what I think is still going to happen, Gen 8.5, which would be Diamond and Pearl remakes. I think they're working on them. I definitely think they're working on them. I think if this, you've got a different guy working on these expansions. We've seen there's another guy outside of Masuda and Omori working on it. It frees up time for them to look at those projects and work on those projects and make them right and not have such a blunder out release. So that's what I thought this expansion is going to do, and I really liked this Direct, giving us so much detail as to what we're going to be getting. What do you think?
It'll be really interesting to see if they do make a Diamond and Pearl remake, and two big reasons being that Diamond, Pearl and Platinum were the first games in the series to really use what I consider to now be modern Pokemon mechanics, and that is things like physical special split, kind of ease of bringing Pokemon from those games forward into the main games. Getting from Generation 3 to 4 is but it's straightforward, but a little bit more kind of requires effort. But certainly from Generation 4 and 5 onwards, it was really straightforward to get your Pokemon from game to game to game. So it would be more surprising for me if they did make a Diamond Pearl Platinum remake over more content for Sword and Shield. I know there's big demand out there. I know people want it, and I'm sure that means one day, sooner or later, we will get it. But I think that the kind of the number of new things they could bring to that game are probably much smaller than they could have done with the Ruby and Sapphire remakes that we got a couple of years ago, and certainly the kind of base Pokemon Red, Yellow and Blue game remakes that we got twice now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going off a pattern we've seen with, like, what, Gen 4 giving us Gen 2 remakes, and then Gen 6 giving us Gen 3 remakes, and then Gen 8, I don't know, Gen 4 remakes.
Look, there's certainly a pattern there, but let's not forget the most recent remake was.
It was more of a reimagining, really, if anything.
And maybe the next game we get is a
let's go
for Gen 2, and you know, I think there's a genuine case that there's an audience for the Let's Go games that isn't there for the main series, and maybe that's enough to justify doing it. And maybe what we get is a kind of Let's Go Johto rather than a Generation 4 remake.
I mean, either way, I'm going to be happy. Johto being my favourite, and obviously having a remake of a core Pokemon game, can't go wrong with it. So either way, I'll be pretty happy. But I just think it says something that we've got someone else working on these expansions rather than it being Masuda and it being Omori. I think there's something there. There's something there for sure. But time will tell, obviously. That's it from me, really, in terms of the direct. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, it was nice. I mean, a lot of the things in that direct were a surprise. I thought it was going to be 10 minutes of technical talk about how home works.
Yeah.
But it was nice that it was
no Pokemon
content. And it was real content. It was surprising. It was new. It was, certainly for a Pokemon fan, enjoyable to watch. And I can't ask for more.
Yeah, I mean, my colleagues gave me half an hour from work to watch the stream, and man, I was freaking out at my desk, and people were just looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Justifiably, I think you give me that look sometimes, but no, I was just really, I just felt really happy seeing all this new stuff that we're going to be able to play on our base games. I'm just really excited for it, and I can't wait till June in order to play the first part of it.
Absolutely.
Cool. So we've got a new segment on the stream. Well, everything's new, really, isn't it? But it's a Castform, and Castform has got some news for us. It's our special.
I thought you said it was a news segment. I thought you said I would have been fine.
Oh, well, yeah. Let's just pretend it was a really good pun, shall we?
Yeah.
But no, we've got a segment, and this is a special correspondent. His name is Podcastform. Yeah, not Castform, Podcastform, and it's a newly discovered species of Castform, discovered in the Please Be Excited region. That's Ben, for those who know Ben. But yeah, let's speak to Castform, shall we? Hello, Castform. It is. Oh. So Castform is saying that you need to make sure that you get your Gigantamax Meowth before the 15th. This is available through Mystery Gift. If you leave it too late, it's going to disappear, so make sure you get it. Anything else, Castform? Apricot balls? Oh, right. So you need to get Apricot balls whilst they're still available till the 15th. Mystery Gift again. Go to Cerebi.net and you should find a code there. You can redeem those codes on Mystery Gift, so don't forget to do that. Anything else, Castform? A chill in the air. Oh. So, 1st of February, there's going to be a snowstorm hitting the wild area. Its friend Glaceon is going to be really happy about it, and you can actually catch that Glaceon during the snowstorm, so don't miss that on the 1st of February. Anything else, Castform? I am? Of course I am. Ethan is appearing in Pokemon Masters on the 15th. So you'll be able to pull Ethan from the Gacha banner on the 15th. I'll be doing a stream of it. I'll come on to that later. But yeah. Anything else? You want to speak to Amit? Huh? Amit is saying something. Do you know what he's saying?
He probably wants to talk about the competitive tournament happening at the end of the month. Galan Newcomers.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure. And something about codes.
Yeah, there's a couple more promotional codes at the moment. One of them is Galar, just literally the word Galar. The other one is Area Sylvester, but with an I instead of a 1 instead of an I. All of the codes on Cerebi, feel free to check them out. But
Awesome.
one of them will get you a bottle cap, but the rest of them will get you some Premier Rules.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Castform. You too, buddy. Take care. Oh, that Castform. It's always very polite. Bless it. So yeah, this is the part of the show where we just basically say, is there any other business you want to talk about? I know certainly I said it just a second ago during the podcast form segment, but I'll be doing a Pokemon Masters stream. This would be me just trying to pull Ethan from his banner. His banner is going to be up on the 15th, and I'll be doing that on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Universal Time. So be sure to check in if that's something that appeals to you. Next week, obviously, we'll be talking about the Pokemon movie. It's been revealed, and about the new Pokemon affecting the meta. That'll be the main topic, and there'll be other stuff, I'm sure. But is there anything you want to add, Amit, before we end it?
No, to be honest, I'm suddenly very, very the Galar Newcomers Tournament, and I want to talk about 3 hours, but I will save it for another time.
Yeah, we'll do that next week in that case. That's a good thing to go off, and I think I'll be needing your help in securing a couple of Pokemon for that tournament. So I'm well now, so that'll be probably my first tournament I'll be doing. I've got a few ideas, but I'm sure I'll bounce that back and forth or offline with you. I do want to give a shout out to a couple of people, Press X to Alex and Cozy Bear Live. They followed during the podcast, so just a thank you to both of them for giving us the follow. As I said a couple times during the stream, you can send your feedback and your questions to us over at PokeRamblePod@gmail.com. This is very much a work in progress. I was a bit shocked about how much work this actually took. I mean, I watch a lot of podcasts, especially kind of funny games, which I sort of try to emulate in this sort of thing, and yeah, it's a lot of work, and honestly credit to them for being able to do it on a daily basis and make it be so good. We'll improve over time, obviously, but yeah, no, thank you very much for watching, and Amit, do you want to say goodbye to the users? Or the watchers, or the listeners?
Until the next time, everyone.
Yeah, till the next time. Take it easy, people. And that's the end of the stream.